Making matcha is a ritual, just like pre-production planning. First, you gather your tools. You have the matcha, the whisk, the bowl. Just like assembling a team, your script, and your vision. Next, you sift the matcha, breaking down the clumps. Just like refining your ideas and removing what doesn't serve the story. Then, you add water at the right temperature, never boiling, never rushed. Timing matters, just like scheduling shoot days and finding the perfect-ish flow. Now you whisk. Gently at first and then with purpose. It's all about consistency, like aligning creative minds before production. And when it's ready, smooth, balanced, you take that first sip. The same satisfaction as stepping onto set, knowing that the groundwork is done. Because a great film, just like great matcha, starts long before the first pour. What's up, everyone? If you are new here, my name is Desiree Lacap, aka Lacapture. I'm a filmmaker who also shares film tips and tricks all across social media. Y'all, we have hit 60,000 subscribers. That means there are 60,000 of you who are supporting this channel, and it means the world to me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate each and every one of you. All right, first and foremost though, y'all, I finally updated my website. It's been 4 years. It was time that I rebrand this year. There are a lot of things in motion. I'm excited. I'm just super juiced to be able to take what I learned from each of these projects that I do, along with what it is I already know, and pass this knowledge on to y'all. Look, there's so many things happening behind the scenes. So in this video, I will be walking you through my pre-planning process or pre-production process as a director of photography. Mood boards, storyboards, shot listing, lighting diagrams, and any final remarks. I do want to say you could apply this pre-pro process to any video that you create. I think the most important thing about pre-production is being able to eliminate the time wasted when you are actually filming. You're racing the light. So just a simple shot list that I mentioned even in my past videos, how important it is to have a general shot list or a general idea of what it is that you want to film. These are best practices to be able to prep as much as you can before the actual shoot date. And everybody is different, right? But this is so far what works best for me. So I'm super excited to get into it. Let's go. For this specific project that we actually just filmed, I was collaborating with Shia, who is the writer and the director. She's been a writer for 20 plus years. I really want to do this project justice because this was her directorial debut, meaning this is her first time directing a short film. When somebody reaches out to me, I like to print out the script. I'll read the story through just as the story and really try to understand the emotions that she's trying to portray in each scene and what the overall arc of the story is. That way I understand when going into pre-production what it is that she's trying to portray emotionally. So I'll read it a few times just to understand the story, and then from there I'll grab highlighters and pens and I'll break it down as to how I see it coming to life visually. The camera movements, is it static? Is it handheld? What is the emotion we're trying to portray for the audience, right? So I'll do my version of that, and then the director and I will come together and meet pretty often to discuss what her vision is, what my vision is, and what our vision is together. Because that way I was able to translate what Shia, the director, wanted the actor to feel or the audience to feel, and really create that emotion through cinematography. Create the story with so much intention. So that's the script, breaking down the script, and the director and I coming together with really understanding the story that she's trying to tell, and how I could take what she sees in her head, what she feels in her heart, and then translate that through cinematography. Hey, it's me. So I actually was reflecting on this video as we're putting it together, and it brought me back to a little moment I had a few months prior to the production, which happened back in January. Look, let's be honest, life could get really overwhelming, and a few months ago there was a part of me that was actually questioning my career. You know, those thoughts that could really pile up, and it's like, oh, are you worthy of doing this? Is this something that you want to do? Like, does it feel right, this and that. It's not easy at all navigating life changes or challenges, and especially thinking about where you should be in your life, right? Especially the older we get, we put that pressure on ourselves where we have to be at a certain place in our life at a certain time when it's really you flowing. So after speaking with a therapist for a few months, I gained a lot of insight on my inner world and actually gained a lot of clarity as to where I want to go in my career and in my life by digging for answers that were buried beneath and why I am the way I am. And this project specifically really was the launch of my career. I felt that deep in my soul. So our sponsor for today's video is BetterHelp, who will connect you with a therapist who could help you maybe dig deep for some answers that you may be looking for. You know, instead of being stuck in this endless loop and questioning ourselves, I found it super helpful to talk through these concerns, really dissect where these thoughts could be coming from, and allow myself to dig deeper with someone who's trained to help me discover these answers. I really value the growth that I go through, and as much as I know, I always want to learn more about myself. So to get started with your healing journey, you just gotta fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a few days. And you could always easily switch therapists at any time with no extra cost if it's not the right fit. BetterHelp carefully makes sure therapists on the platform are well qualified and their customer support team is there to help you with any questions that you got. Like I mentioned, going to therapy has really opened doors for me to discover more about who I am, where I come from, why I am the way I am, and I could move forward with greater intentions for myself and those around me. So join the healing journey with me and click the description below and get 10% off your first month of therapy. I'm super excited. Let's get back to it. So now let's talk about the next step. The director and I are meeting often at this point, right? We are weeks and 2 months or something like that, 1 month away from the shoot date. 4 weeks prior to the date of production, we are locked in and working on the storyboard, the shot list, and really locking down what it is that we want to capture. That is helpful because the day of productions, it's so fresh in your mind. Well, at least for us, it was so fresh in our mind that day 1 and day 2, because time, when I tell y'all, time just be going away when you're on set is wild to me. We had to pivot so much. The director after day 1 had to do rewrites and cut some scenes out. I had to think of shots on the fly. I had to cut a lot of shots out and still try to understand if we cut these scenes, these shots out that we wanted to originally capture to tell the story, are we sacrificing a shot and still being able to tell the story? And it's grateful enough that I have an editing background, so I was able to really be like, okay, yes, without this, we could still tell the story that we're trying to tell and still create that emotion, right? So from being able to be on the same page about the story and the emotion that we're trying to portray of the overall script, Shia then put together her own shot list. So throughout this entire collaboration, we were just so open with one another and vulnerable. She mentioned that, you know, this is her first time directing, so she doesn't know how to put a shot list together. So I was like, girl, do whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing, put it all out there. And then for me, I'll take your shot list, which is this shot list right here, and then I'll do my best to combine the shots, and then we'll talk through that, making sure that how I put it together is still how you see it in your head. So from there, I think it is very, very important to create a storyboard. That way you have an idea of what the final film will look like. It gives us a clear concept of if what we have planned and talked about is working. So this is the storyboard. I'm just gonna give one example of a scene that was pretty heavy here. So this one had, scene 15 had 180 cards. It doesn't mean there's 180 shots here, okay? It was just, there was some repeating shots here. As you can see, this shot right here and this shot is the same. And then we have a few other repeating shots here. It's just putting together what that scene would look like. Let's talk about creating emotion, intentionally framing up shots to heighten the emotion of the audience who is watching it, okay? We're starting off with the typical, like, over the shoulder shots. Those are pretty standard in film when you start seeing it. And then we begin to cut to a close-up shot of each of the characters because they start to get more intimate with the conversation. Being intentional with the shots that you use could really heighten the emotion of the overall scene. Another example of that is, let me actually go to the climax. And I don't want to get too much into it, but so here's a very odd angle, right, that you see in some shows or movies when it starts to, it's like this high angle negative space, because this negative space creates that tension that we want the audience to feel. So if it's a low angle pointing up, that our character is in power. If it's opposite, he's kind of belittled in this scene. So just kind of examples like that, and I wanted to match hers as well because it is creating that type of tension that we feel throughout that scene. There's so much more that goes into it, and when I tell you we were going ham for hours each day the month leading up to this, it was intense, but it was so worth it. That's an example of the storyboard. Next, let's talk about, honestly, my favorite part is the shot list. Like I mentioned, she actually provided me with her version of the shot list, and I took that, I created a storyboard, we talked about it, we landed on the same page of how she wanted each scene to feel like, and then I took that and I translated it. There were multiple versions of a shot list, and I do want to say, when working with somebody or even with yourself, don't try to restrict yourself with, are we gonna have time because they're gonna set up and this is happening and that and that. For the first version of your shot list or anything, even a script or whatever it is, dump it all out. So when Shia, the director slash writer, and I were collaborating, I told her, I was like, yo, let's just throw everything out on a first version shot list, and then we'll walk through it and be like, well, is this necessary? Is it a want or is it a need? The first version of shot list was a lot, let me tell you. It was a ton. It was all this here. I broke it down by scenes and I went chronologically based on the script. So I went scene 1, 2, 3, etc. And then we went in and we kind of shot dumped. We put everything out on there. From there, we gather everything that we kind of finalized would be the shot list for each. I like to organize it based on how we will be filming, dependent on how the first AD, which is the first assistant director, will put together the schedule. There was a lot of shots, let me tell you, it was a lot of shots. That's why it was so fresh in our minds for when we had to pivot and cut some shots out or even make up some shots on the fly. It was so helpful to even have this reference. Once we get our schedule from our first AD, then I go in and I rearrange it based on the scenes that we're filming per day. So for that, I put day 1, day 2, day 3. We knew we were starting with the biggest scene, which involved the biggest setup and the most extras. So I put that first, scene 9, scene 5, scene 15, and I like to organize my shot list going this way, the columns by scene number, shot type, movement, whether it's static, pan, handheld, tilt, rack focus, whatever it is, angle, equipment. We used Dana dollies on set, so that's what the dolly is. We use a lot of shots with tripod and some of them were handheld. I have lenses, I have who's in the frame, like the subject or the actor, the shot description, the scene, location, exterior or interior, reference notes, and director notes. So it's really helpful because this shot list actually applies to all the department heads. So it's pretty important to be on point with the shot list, right? The director and I collaborating a lot with the shot list along with the first AD. That way he knows, or they know, what we're filming and they could allocate for how much time we need for each scene when they do the schedule. It's important to create a shot list during film productions because the scriptee would need one, the DIT, it'd be great for them to have one, potentially the second AC. It's because they kind of note down the shot, but they work closely with the scriptee to do that. The first AD, of course, the producer, the gaffer, and myself. I don't want to get too much go into too much details, but that's the general way of how we create a shot list and how I go about it, especially with collaborating with a director slash writer or an artist for a music video. During this entire process, I'm also pulling a team for the camera department. So camera department consists of a first AC, a second AC. So what a first AC does is they're really kind of leading the camera team in a sense, where when I'm having to collaborate with the director while things are going on. The first AC is setting up the entire rig and making sure that the camera is placed where it needs to be, along with the second AC. The second AC primarily does slate, so knowing all the slate details from the scriptie or whoever is giving the details of the scene and the shot number for the DIT/editor to know. So what a slate is, and it's really important to have the accurate details, that way the editor in post-production knows what scene are we filming for this, what take it is, if it's MOS or if they have audio, etc. So that's camera department. My first and second AC, they did a phenomenal, amazing job. Shout out to Jackie and Savannah. And then my lighting team, so gaffer, which was Ronan, my key grip, and then we had a swing. Knowing that this took place in a bar, right, the lead worked at a bar, I wanted to really light it up and keeping it in that world, but augmenting it more clean and having the lighting team go in, like shaping the world in a very cleaner way. Ronan, which was the gaffer, and I collaborated a lot for each scene because most of the scenes it was kind of lit up the same, but some of them stood out more than others based on the emotion that we were trying to tell for that scene. So I created a lighting reference for him that I really wanted to apply in the film, which is very heavy and secure. So I put together lighting references, we talked about ideas, we bounced off of each other, and for this, unfortunately, since I'm away, I was only able to do a location scout once. I would typically go in and measure the space out, potentially capture a 360 diagram, put it on there, and be able to do accurate lighting diagrams and maps. In this case, because he was also able to go do a quick location scout and get a feel of the space and how small it actually was, we agreed on doing very minimal rigging up on the ceiling. That way they were quickly able to just adjust. So they attached a few lights overhead. That way they were able to just pan it over to a different way. And then if we're shooting at the bar, they were able to just kind of either close the barn doors or open it and dim it down. So it was very minimal, but it made a huge difference for each scene. I went in and I kind of gave him some references and descriptions of how I want each scene to be. For example, there was a scene that took place in February. I wanted to separate that scene a little bit and added a tone of red because throughout the film there was a lot of warmness. So it's just similar with the overall scene with yellows and oranges and evoking a sense of intimacy, right? And we wanted to try to add splashes of vibrant colors to break up the warm tones that we got throughout the film. Also, the motivation in this scene is where the characters are sharing such a meaningful or casual moment with the environment, reinforcing that relaxed and slightly nostalgic tone. So that's just kind of an example of the lighting references. Usually I will go in and do lighting diagrams and maps. Sometimes the gaffer will do that, but as long as we're on the same page, yeah, it all just depends on who you're working with. But something that I'm really learning still as a DP is the technical terms of lighting. I kind of know where lighting can be placed, but it's like, oh well, the technical terms of things is something that I still want to learn, and I'm excited to learn more of that. Yeah, I want to say that's kind of it. There's so much more that goes into this, right? But this is basically the overall general way of how I go into each collaboration is, one, when you first meet somebody, build a really good foundation for the collaboration. Meaning, I'll let them know that for a successful collaboration means open communication, transparency, and honesty. I always want somebody to let me know whether something's too much or where I could be doing too little or too much, and just setting our expectations for the collaboration. Second, pre-planning. We know that it's important. So much work goes into it, but it's so worth it when you get on set or when you're working with other people or even yourself, and creating a general shot list or an idea of what it is that you want could save you a ton of time. I hope that there's something that you took away from this video, right? If it's anything, is preparation, dedication, commitment, motivation. I don't even know where I'm going with that, but take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. Just remember, keep being great. Go out and create and have fun doing it. I know this year is about to go crazy for everybody if you allow yourself to be free and create what it is that you want to create. I know it's so easy for us to get in our heads about things But as long as we recognize those moments, we could use that and strengthen, you know, apply it to whatever it is that we want to do. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you haven't yet, in my last video, I actually announced a giveaway for the Rode wireless microphone. I still haven't chosen a winner, so make sure that you go back to that video if you haven't watched it and comment and follow the rules in the description. I appreciate all of y'all. I know I already said that, but I really do. And we are on the road to 100K. Keep being great, go out and create, and have fun doing it. I'll see y'all at the next video. Peace.